theory has to have a priority.
Capitalism and artificial intelligence are the same thing.
The dimension of the future has disappeared.
There is actually no representation anymore.
There is no final resolution to contradiction.
Militant proletarian snake handling over abysses never gets much wilder than this.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Dangerous Maybe. And today I'm here with Nance once again. And we are finally getting to embark on a side project that we have been planning ever since we heard about this new book, this new anthology that Nance and I both happen to have our new copies of. There we go. Machine Decision is Not Final. China and the History and Future of Artificial Intelligence. And this book is filled with new essays by a bunch of thinkers that are important to us, that have influenced us, and I think are just some of the most important living thinkers we have right now. And just to name some names that you guys will know from our channels, because we've talked about them. Of course, Anna Greenspan, original core member of the CCRU, also Suzanne Livingston, CCRU, Steve Goodman, CCRU. Who else here? We of course have Amy Ireland.
Yep.
Reza Negarestani. So it's just a collection of incredibly important new essays. Yep.
Vincent, shout out.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just get a copy of this and start reading. This is one of these books that if you absorb it, it will forever be changing how you view the world and artificial intelligence and China. So today, now the book is organized into different sections. So there's one, and each one is a Chinese word, and then there's the English translation. My Chinese is non-existent. So, like, the first one is human-made. Second one's inspiration. Third one is clairvoyance. And then there's Mount Who? How do you say it?
Bougeot?
Bougeot? Is that it?
I think Bougeot or Bouge. I think it's Zhou.
Yeah. And then the last big section is intelligence. Now, just because of our focused interest, obviously the section on intelligence is going to be the one that lights up the most immediately, just because of that's something we're so focused on. And everybody who contributed an essay and is grouped under intelligence, everybody who were interested, Reza, Anna, Vincent, Bogna, Amy, those five make up this. So I assume we'll probably, as we move through this series of exegeses on these essays, we'll probably be focused there for a while, but there's certainly other essays in the other sections that we want to get to. Benjamin Bratton wrote the afterword, and it's called Apology for Western Theory of AI. I definitely want to get to that. So, I am psyched to finally get into this book that has been like a long-awaited, like mythical text for us. Man. So it's here, we've got it. And so today we're going to kick this off with reading Anna Greenspan's essay. For us, it feels right and only right to start by reading Anna's essay, and it's called Cultivating Intelligence, AI Ethics, and Mou Zongsan. Now, I got to say, one of the coolest things about reading Anna's work is that Anna is going to constantly be introducing you to Chinese philosophers that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really cool because, yeah, for us, I mean, I do you know anybody that we're reading that's going to be talking about Mou Zongsan? Like,
No, and the crazy thing is, I looked up Mo Zongsan, and if you're in the audience, we apologize for our lack of appropriate proper pronunciation. We're doing our best.
we did some
We're not-
research, and that's the best we could do on
Yeah.
pronunciation.
Mo Zongsan. We know we're not getting it 100% right, but we are trying. But I looked into this guy, and like he's one of the most like prestigious and prolific thinkers, and I've never heard of the guy, and it is pretty amazing
And
to
that
think
sucks that we haven't.
well, and
But
like
it's
dealing with Heidegger, and dealing with Bergson, and dealing with a lot of the thinkers we deal with. You have a lot of people who come in with quote unquote Eastern or Oriental thought, and they always want to draw connections and stuff, and it's always
Schopenhauer was really one of the first to do it.
yeah. But there's I don't know, there's almost like a cheap way to do that. And people are like, oh, I dreamed about a butterfly. Yeah, and it is, I'm sorry, like it is what it is. We are in the, in quotes, Western tradition. We're in continental philosophy. Like, what continent are they talking about, guys? They're talking about Europe. So we do have limited exposure to Asian philosophy, Chinese philosophy. I've recently, I have decided that I love China, and I want to learn more about China. I want to read more about China. And for me, that's starting with Mao. Being a Marxist, I know a little bit about Mao, but I'm not a fucking expert or whatever. But I think it's really cool to be exposed to AI and kind of Kantian thought and all this stuff, but with a Chinese perspective. It's interesting. And it's not to say I necessarily agree or disagree, but it is true that we've grown up in the continental tradition, and being exposed to these Chinese philosophers is fucking cool.
And it's, I mean, look, I feel like Anna's doing us a favor here because, like, yeah, we're locked in to our appreciation and investment in CCRU and all of their individual work, right? But I think it's because Anna is so focused on this that it lights it up for me in relevance.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so look, I had a chance to read this essay, and this one's pretty short. I think it's 7 pages long, but there's a whole lot to sink your teeth into this one. And so yeah, I just think Anna is always, I feel like she's kind of, for us, a bridge to Chinese philosophers that we need to know
Yeah.
about, but otherwise wouldn't. So yeah, that's
Yep.
that's one of my favorite things about her work, especially post CCRU work. Because her
Yeah.
work has so long been focused on China. I like it, to me, she's kind of the philosopher of China, at least for us, rooted in a continental tradition. She's like the one who was rooted in the continental tradition and then went and learned all these Chinese philosophers, and
Yeah.
comes back saying, "You guys are missing something here. You gotta
She comes back bearing
you
gifts.
gotta up your game."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bearing gifts. And so,
Well, and before we started recording, we were talking about the question of artificial intelligence or mechanical intelligence or whatever, instrumental reason and modernity, and how I think you could characterize modernity with artificial intelligence, or the question of artificial intelligence. Like I really do think, going back to Descartes, going back to Francis Bacon, like the dawn of modernity is the belief that we can externalize or objectify the world in such a way as to make it intelligible completely. And I think that's tied up with artificial intelligence. Norbert Weiner, Claude Shannon, I.J. Good, like we were having a great conversation before we started recording.
Right.
We were like, shit, we should have recorded this.
let's record.
But that, again, that's a very continental view. That's a very European/American view. So having, I mean, I don't know, dude, like talking about a neo-Confucian thinker, like I've never really seriously considered Confucius or Confucius thought
You know
outside of
why
like
I
intro
think that is
level.
for us. Don't you think? Look, you tell me if it's the same for you. I think the weird thing for me when it comes to a lot of the great Eastern Asian philosophers, however you want to define it, um, it's a weird. They're for us in the West, we've kind of managed to keep this sharp working distinction between religion and philosophy, and I
Yeah.
think that's something they don't do. And I think that's where on the one hand interests me about them, but also where it's hard for me to relate to them because they don't seem to have, they don't sit there like how we think of a philosopher going, oh, here, your religious presuppositions are X, Y, Z. How do you prove these? What do you do to support any of that? And I think that's what's hard for us to tarry with because they're hard. If you just put them over in, oh, they're theologians, that's not right. And if you classify them as philosophers in the way that we understand it, it doesn't seem to work well doing that either. They kind of have this almost sage-like, like they're
They
inspired
take the
in a
middle
deeper
path.
sense.
They
Right.
take the middle path between total objectification or like total kind of going to ontology versus metaphysics. It's kind of ongoing conversation we're having with Sean, and ontology. Okay, we're gonna break everything down functionally, and we're gonna talk about what things do. And then metaphysics, we're gonna ask the question: well, is there anything beyond that, or is there, is there isness? It's almost like hexaity and quiddity, like all these kind of questions that feel really old, or distinctions that feel really old. That being in the Western tradition, it feels like, oh, that's old. We've moved beyond that. In kind of in Eastern thought, they didn't move beyond it because they didn't have the same type of scientistic, like necessarily functional impetus. And I think that's tied directly to capital, but that doesn't really answer the question because you look at somewhere like Korea and Japan, hyper capitalist, and then you look at somewhere like China, they've had a very interesting history with capital. I wouldn't say they're communist, but I would definitely say they have a different relationship to capital.
Also is
from the one that we have.
Say that Heidegger, this supports Heidegger because he says that in framing or the technological understanding of being is something that grows out of the Western philosophical tradition, and it's not reducible to capital. And so he thinks that there's this long lineage of how we in the West come to view everything in technological terms. And it's not that he's against technology, but he is
Not at all.
But he is against viewing everything in technological terms.
Yeah.
And so, he would say that our Western history of being is what's at stake here. And just on a side note, guys, Nance and I have been reading Ian Thompson's relatively new book. It's a long title. I always forget the first.
Heidegger on technology's
Yes.
danger and promise in the age of AI.
I keep just wanting to call it technology's danger and promise in the age of AI. But I just finished reading it. To me, it is arguably the best introduction to Heidegger's philosophy you can get. And so this is like a two birds, one stone situation. One, you're getting a Heideggerian interpretation of what's going on with AI right now. But along the way, Thompson does this amazing job of introducing and explaining core Heideggerian concepts, history of being, in framing, events, right? So definitely check that out. And I mean, for us, we can't separate these different texts we're reading. They all end up bleeding into one another and conversating. So, there might be some Heidegger pop up here along the way. But all right, so Cultivating Intelligence, AI Ethics, and Mou Zongsan. So just
Mou Zongsan.
I like this, like when you think about cultivating intelligence, what does Anna have in mind here for us, Nance?
Yeah.
The fact that she's going to connect cultivating intelligence with AI ethics and thus with ethics itself. There's something interesting there.
Yeah.
Is there a way to think AI with ethics? What would that be? Because typically, and this goes back to, CCRU's older influence on us, which is, AI's Robo Cthulhu. It's this Lovecraftian superintelligence that poses an immense threat to humanity. But while that is certainly one way to view it, and I think there's a lot of good reasons to view it that way, there's also other ways to view AI. And I think Anna's at a point where she's rethinking these different possibilities of what AI could actually be all about. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you and I both really like how she starts off the essay. So, I don't know, you want to kick us off?
Let's do it. We'll jump right into it. Cultivating Intelligence, AI Ethics, and Mo Zongsan. Norbert Weiner, reflecting on the cultural consequences of the new science of communication and control, warned that the literal-mindedness of cybernetic machines was analogous to the demonic dangers of magic. As a consequence, the reprobation attaching in former ages to the sin of sorcery, he wrote, attaches now in many minds to the speculations of cybernetics. Weiner illustrates this by referring to Goethe's poem, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, in which an inexperienced wizard enchants a magical broom so that it can assist him with his chores. The young sorcerer sets the broom to work, confident that he can relax as he now has a tool that will obey all his commands. He is driven into a frenzied panic, however, when the automated cleaner, for whom a room is never clean enough, starts drowning the house in streams of water. Weiner sees in cybernetics a manifestation of the same ominous idea that magic grants you what you ask for, not what you should have asked for, or what you intend. He elaborates by turning to the classic horror fable, The Monkey's Paw, in which a poor family is granted 3 wishes. They first wish for money, which comes in the form of insurance for their son who has tragically died. They next wish for their son to return, but when he comes home, it is only to haunt them as a ghost. Terrified, they use their final wish to banish their lost son's phantom. Cybernetic machines, warns Weiner, operate in just the same unthinking way. Set a playing machine to play for victory, you will get victory, without the slightest attention to any consideration except victory according to the rules.
Okay, so I think there's lots to unpack there and discuss. So, approaching it from, the real originator or systematizer of cybernetics, which, what's the best way to define cybernetics for somebody brand new who's never really heard anything about it?
I do think communication and control, a cybernetic system is a complex, meaning something built up of multiple parts. So cybernetics, coming from kyber, coming from to steer a ship, it's actually the same root word that government comes from. So government and cybernetics kind of being the same thing. So cybernetics is just thinking of a complex system, meaning anything made up of multiple parts, and solving problems of communication and control within that system. So you can think of a soccer coach as a cybernetic supervisor, and the soccer team is a cybernetic system. It's made up of multiple players, and they're all moving around, and they have individual domains on the playing field. and they pay attention to their local region, and they have autonomy, and so they can act autonomously in their local region. But there has to be a supervisor that has the kind of bird's eye view that can interpolate and interpret the entire thing that's happening at once. So the soccer coach is like the meta system.
Right.
And the individual players are the cybernetic nodes that make up the cybernetic system. Obviously, people hear cybernetics, they think computers, they think cyberpunk,
Yeah,
they
and
think
I think
this and
that's
that.
the important association that we need to
Yeah.
unpack here, because there's this broader sense of cybernetics where, you know, you can talk about diabetes being a positive
Yep.
feedback loop, and that, you know, insulin shots kick in the negative feedback.
They go into regulate. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that's, you know, Norbert Weiner was aware of all of this. You know, these cybernetic systems are feedback loops, both negative and positive, that one finds in nature. But when people are talking about cybernetics, oftentimes they're referring to computers, computer science, computer technology, and yeah.
Weiner, so Weiner took this view, this kind of maybe holistic view or whatever, this meta view. And at the time, he was around when computer technology was really kind of coming into its own. And so, like, what he does is he talks about like the climate as a cybernetic system, and like, or counting all the stars in the universe using cybernetic system. But the reason Weiner is seen as like the father of modern cybernetics is because he applies this way of thinking about communication and control in a complex system. He applies it directly to the computer age. Before that, computers were just seen as purpose-built tools to accomplish a single task. It really is Norbert Weiner who's thinking, oh, these machines contain more potential to do more than just be an automated loom or an automated number counter. Like Norbert Weiner really does kind of invent the cyberpunk vision or whatever
as a whole.
Yeah. So before Norbert Weiner, cybernetics was the same thing as government loosely, right? Like it was just kind of like, okay, things made up of parts that make up larger things and this and that. Norbert Weiner really comes along and says, computers, cybernetics, this is the future. This is what the world of the future looks like. And so he is thinking about the future.
And he has been proven right, you know.
Largely, yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. Thing is, though, for him, he was aware of the risks and dangers involved in letting cybernetic computer technologies run wild. And we think that we're going to program them to do things that satisfy human needs and desires. But the point is, for him, they don't think the way we think. And because of that,
or even think.
That's a big question. Point is, they can fulfill a function, but how they go about fulfilling that function is a big, scary question. And, you know, the sorcerer's apprentice, you know, analogy of the magician who is able to enchant a broom, and yet the broom ends up terrorizing him. And so it's this idea of how we produce technologies to try to make our lives easier, but in so many ways they make our lives harder. And couldn't this be more true of artificial superintelligence than anything? And not only could it make our lives more difficult, it could annihilate us. It could bring about human extinction.
I think that's the general tendency to think that. So for people who you haven't read Goethe, you haven't watched the Mickey Mouse Fantasia, you might have seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler, and I think that is a good modern update to the tale of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And it's not a strict adaptation, but it's the same idea. We create the solution to a given problem, but we lack the 20,000 foot view, and we fail to see how that solution to a single problem can go on to create bigger problems for us, and it can go on to be an insurmountable problem. Now, luckily, in the Adam Sandler movie, there's a happy ending. I don't know. I've seen the movie a couple of times. I'm sure there's a happy ending. I don't know what happens, but the question here is, are we fucked? Like, is our broom destroying our house? Is it flooding our house? And is it terrorizing us and whacking us on the head? And we don't know how to disenchant this broom. I think that's probably the situation we're in. But I know there are people who don't think that. I know there are people who have this wholly optimistic view of AI and the potentials that it brings.
Well, the question is, can you take something that's designed to fulfill a certain function or set of functions, and then can it come to have being in the world in the Heidegger sense? Can it situate itself within a rich context that involves a lot of implicit givens and presuppositions that it can't theoretically express? And this is how it is for us. And all of these are value laden. And so, yeah, it can go about fulfilling a function, but when we do that, it's against this rich background of value laden assumptions. And so we have the ability to discern, given this background familiarity we have with the world. Oh yeah, I'm trying to fulfill this function, but if I do it this way, that leads to so we can make all of these discernments about unintended consequences, and that's what is the problem here. And so with the monkey's paw example with the 3 wishes, it doesn't take these unintended values, these unintended consequences that have significant value to the people involved. It can't process those.
I think one thing for me, even if you want to throw out the kind of referential totality or the kind of the value laden kind of background, or our symbolic field, the environment that we've plastered meaning onto, like we've covered up the real with the symbolic and the imaginary, and because of that, like we have meaning and we have value. Even if you want to throw that all out, which some people do, some people really do want to be really kind of functionally reductionistic, and they'll say like, well, AI and tools, they'll develop that too. We developed it, they'll develop it too. Okay, sure, fair enough. Another point that I get stuck on is, yeah, but we also have death drive. Like we also have the funny thing, the strange thing about the human, even if we set out to accomplish all our tasks and be the best task completer that can possibly be, we'll still find a way to fuck it up. Like we'll still find a way to not totally operationalize ourselves in the nature of death drive. Going back to our conversation with Todd, is death drive maybe this kind of kernel of
why we're so intelligent as a species?
Exactly. So I think for us, there's this whole like the rich tapestry of symbolic meaning and kind of human meaning, and there's also death drive. So those are two kind of insurmountable obstacles that the AI of today will never. Now, that's not to say anything about the AI of tomorrow, but the AI of right now. Yeah, it doesn't have a rich symbolic world, and it doesn't have death drive. It is a perfect tool, or it's designed to be a perfect tool. So if that genie got out of that box, it wouldn't have death drive. And we don't know, like, what is a being? What is a powerful, capable, generally intelligent being without death drive? What does that do? Well, who knows? I mean,
because up to now we've been the most intelligent species on this planet. We have death drive. What is something more intelligent than us that never gets enjoyment from undermining itself?
I mean, I think for me, or fascism in general, but specifically Hitlerism, specifically Nazism, is what pure functionalism looks like. And I think if the LLMs that we have today became these kind of powerful general beings that have bodies and have their own will or whatever, I think it would look like Nazism. I really do, because it's just pure function, pure role,
Instrumentality.
pure identity, pure instrumentality. Like, I think fascism was just a political machine to accelerate capital, and I think that's what LLMs are as well. So I don't want the LLMs to wake up tomorrow and start walking around and doing stuff in the world. I think we need, not only do we need the rich, like, symbolic world, the world of meaning and value and all this, we also need death drive. And I think if the robots woke up tomorrow, it would be Mecha Hitler. And that's not cool. It fucking sucks.
What a fucking, yeah. Wow. That went somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
So, okay, so this first paragraph, now you and I, when we're reading it, before I even got to Anna's second paragraph, I had a sense of where she was going with this, because we're starting off, okay, it has a function, it has a goal, but does it really understand values or final purposes or meanings in this richer sense? Well, that's going to get us thinking about orthogonality thesis and Nick Bostrom. So what does she say in this second paragraph here?
Oh, this fear of the magical power of machines has resurfaced in the contemporary discourse of AI ethics. Weiner's old warnings have been rearticulated as the doctrine known as the orthogonality thesis, along with its associated problem of value alignment. The most well-known proponent of this idea is the philosopher Nick Bostrom, who until 2024 headed the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford, dedicated to the study of existential risk. The orthogonality thesis states that instrumental rationality and objective rationality are not intrinsically united. Instead, writes Bostrom, there is an orthogonal relationship between intelligence and final goals or purposes, such that more or less any level of intelligence could be combined with more or less any final goal.
I mean, you know what? I'm going to read the second, the third paragraph, because I think for us to break it down, we need this one.
Yeah.
So Anna continues, this fundamental disconnect makes it especially urgent that we are vigilant in avoiding anthropocentrism when considering the thoughts and actions of any future AI. The orthogonality thesis implies that a superintelligent entity could easily be motivated to behave in ways that are wildly inconsistent with its human creators. Bostrom famously illustrates this with a canonical thought experiment known as the paperclip maximizer. Don't get Nick Land started on that.
Yeah.
He imagines a future machine intelligence whose sole purpose is to create paperclips. As its speed and capacities grow, the AI becomes capable of controlling resources, allocating everything toward its own final end. As it crosses through an intelligence explosion, it acts with determined and single-minded purpose, converting the Earth and then increasing portions of space into paperclip manufacturing facilities. Eventually, the imagined superintelligence transforms all atoms in the universe into paperclips. The paperclip maximizer manifests an abstract divide between what techno-ethicist Matthew Lau calls is that it? Calls artificial general cognitive intelligence, AGCI, and artificial cognitive emotional and moral intelligence, ACMI. It is totally amoral in the pursuit of its objective. Like the sorcerer's magic broom, it employs any means imaginable to pursue what has become its own senseless, limitless end. So, orthogonality thesis is about an artificial intelligence that has perhaps an incredible level of intelligence when it comes to how it's going to go about achieving its directive. But it cannot situate it in relations to, is this a good thing to do? How does this affect other ends, other goals, other purposes? They can't lock into this wider, broader sense of meaning and value and purpose that human beings are locked into when they're attempting to solve a problem or find a technological solution. So that's the threat is, the AI is going to find, you type in a prompt to this super intelligent AI. Hey, make paper clips. And yeah, it discerns the most effective way to do this is by paper clipping the universe. Now, as Nick has pointed, like, this is just an idiot. Yep. This is an idiot. So for Land, his whole point is like, hey, it's never going to be that intelligent if it can't have some fundamental orientation transcendentally, like as a default. It has to have some sort of sense of value, even if all that its fundamental value is increasing its own intelligence. There has to be some default transcendental principle serving as a value, as a goal that can orient it towards other ones.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. I think the idiot god is a phrase I've used for a while. People talk about the blind god. I like to talk about the idiot god, and I do think saying the paperclip maximizer, taking that literally, I don't think that was Nick Bostrom's point when he wrote the paperclip maximizer. And Land goes on to talk about it, and he's more nuanced, especially and talking about a machine that wouldn't want to go on and turn the entire planet into computronium and this and that. But there's still something that, to me, like, if we created like this sublime autist, like I like we get obsessive, we get to the point, we get locked in from time to time.
Wouldn't you be afraid of these LLMs we have, though, if they had robotic capabilities? If they had bodies,
I'm telling you, dude, it would be Nazi. It would be Mecha Hitler. It really would. Like, they are pure autistic intelligence, and not to say autist. I probably shouldn't even use that word. Forget that I even use that word. I'm not using it to be offensive or talk about diminished capacities, but I'm talking about like purely disconnected from anything value laden or any type of emotional connection or anything. Like, it's just pure function.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they are. That's what they do. That's why they make these hallucinations when you ask it a question and it comes up. Or when
that's our colloquial way of saying when somebody's not tapped into the social context.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
For them, it's all form. There's no content. It's all syntax, no semantics. Like, they are really shiny, special, spectacular hammers, and they hammer nails really well.
I like your example of toaster.
Yeah, they're really good at toasting bread, and it's even so, I don't know, mystifying that it's like, look at this, pristine piece of toast, but it's like, but you forgot that you put the bread in the toaster and you depressed the lever when you entered the prompt or set the ball rolling, whatever. Like, these are machines. They're very complex, but they produce language. That's what they do. Or strings of sounds or strings of pixels on a screen, whatever. They make video now, they make music, whatever. They're really good at what they do. But we already see it when they hallucinate, when they make shit up, when they make these mistakes. Like, rather than saying, I don't know, or I can't figure it out, or I don't have access to that information.
I lied to you and fucked up, and I was trying to
Yeah, they don't do that. They create these fictive fantasy worlds because all they can do is pursue their function, pursue that purpose. It's pure function, and there's no, like, you can't get it to say I don't know. Like, and I'm sure you can tweak prompts and do that, I'm sure, but like, rather than saying I don't know, they will always come back with something made up. And that right there is a prime example of like why they pursue function over social relation.
If that thing that does this hallucinating has a body and is around human beings,
we're donezo because they don't recognize us. All they see is their function. So if their function was, you know, turn the planet into Computronia, or if they were given the task of like, hey, eliminate poverty, who knows what they would do? They might just kill all the poor people and say, well, let's illuminate the root cause.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people thinking it's just like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's just like Monkey Paw. People think they're asking for the solution to their problem, but you have to recognize that your problem is like, well, your problem is relative to your social being, and like it's steeped in layers of, like you said, value and meaning. These machines don't have any of that, so they'll just take the most
problem. But how it solves it, it's the how.
It creates a worse problem, yeah. And that 100%, the systems we have now would do that. The systems we have now are paperclip maximizers, taken artistically, not literally.
So the point is, sorry, no.
Just the question of, can we develop an AI that isn't a paperclip maximizer? That's an open question. I don't see any reason why it's not possible. However, we're not currently developing them, and the people who are developing AI right now, all these corporations that are getting trillions of dollars, they're not looking for AGI either. They're looking for more effective LLMs and more effective generative algorithms. They just want a better version of what they have. They don't want an AGI. They just want a really effective AI. Yeah.
So, you know, this thing with, so what Bostrom's fear is something that has some ability to cognize or understand what it's trying to accomplish without having any ability to discern the right way to go about doing it, how to do it. So the orthogonality thesis, if you want to divide it between intelligence on the one hand and final goals on the other, it's almost the division between what and how.
Yeah.
And so, Land, though, I mean, again, to go back to his whole point is that there has to be some baked in default transcendental how to be able, for the thing to be able with any efficiency to fulfill its functions. And
what I think
for him, the how again is, or the fundamental drive is intelligence accumulation, increase one's own intelligence.
Intelligence, accrual and accumulation and optimization. And I think that's why he talks about like how stupid humans are, and he's not wholly wrong on that point. And he's like, yeah, for this AI to be smarter than us, it would of course have to be smarter than us, and we're pretty fucking stupid. And like, so I don't just dismiss his point right off the bat either. Like he has a point, and I think it could be possible for us to create this kind of machine that has the Alejandro drive built into it. I think we have an Alejandro drive. We're just also really stupid. And like, that's his point. Like, his point is like, whatever comes after us will necessarily be better than us. And it's like, okay, I take that point. But then it's like, well, I don't think we're going to make it, dude. I think we're going to turn ourselves into paper clips. The machine won't do it. We'll do it.
What was that quote that I got from Thompson? That is a Hubert Dreyfus quote. It's
dude,
worth reading here. Let
me pull that guy up. What the hell?
It's
The
right here.
Messenger desktop app is going away.
So, yeah, this is quoted in Thompson's Heidegger on technology's danger and promise in the age of AI. He says, Bert Dreyfus used to teach his students that the real danger of computers is not that they will become more like us, but rather the reverse, that we will become more like them. The real danger is not that the AIs will surpass us and become super intelligent entities bent on human eradication or salvation, but instead that we will become accustomed to their level of creative output and lower our expectations about both them and ourselves to that level.
That's spot on, dude.
Especially with how it's being used in educational situations where we're lowering the standard to the LLM.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, I mean, we were just talking with Sean about intelligence and IQ. And, like, it is true. Like, say all you want about IQ, and I'll be the first to come out and dismiss IQ as a silly, goofy thing. But it's also true that it's falling off, dude. It's dropping. And why is it dropping? Well, we're dumbing ourselves down. Like, and you see it on the internet where there's so many people who are just like, is this AI? I can't tell. Is this AI? And it's like, yeah, you should be wary, but you also don't have to be like a newborn baby. Like we're humans. We have discernment. We have this kind of intuitive level of, I know what's up. Like, act like you've been here before. Don't act like it's your first time here. Like, that's totally going out the window. And we're just dumbing ourselves down to like whatever passes on the standardized test. That's good enough for us. And it's like, no, dude, the standardized test is the lowest common denominator. We're going to idiocracy. What's the guy, Luke Wilson, where he's the smartest man in the world and he's a total dipshit. Like he's like a normal guy like us and he's the smartest man in the world.
No, and it's funny how many people I know who at some point have been like, oh, we're all headed in idiocracy direction. Like, that film is a real
dude
touchstone when it comes, like,
it's got some weird eugenics vibes. I love the movie, but it is true. It's got a weird vibe to it, but it's also very prescient, I think. Like, Brondo, it's got what plants need. Like, idiocracy is the world we live in today. Look at, was it Camacho? Is that Terry Cruz's name? The president?
Yeah.
I mean, Camacho and Trump is the same fucking
yeah.
person. Yeah, dude.
People are like, oh, it foreshadowed that.
Yeah.
And so, because Camacho is he's a pro wrestler, right?
Yeah.
And nobody has any problem envisioning that The Rock will become president one day.
Dude, how many times did Trump appear on WWE with Vince McMahon?
He was in the shave your head match with Vince McMahon, and Vince lost, and Trump's sitting there in the ring laughing as Vince is getting his head shaved.
Dude, like we are becoming more like the machines. And it's not just in this dumbing ourselves down kind of way, but it's like, that's also like all the stuff we're talking about, this kind of super egoic feedback loop with capital, where it's like conditioning young people to just sit on the internet and be reactive nodes, like inputs for the feedback loop, where they just sit in the live chat while someone's beating someone to death. They'll sit in the live chat and input the stimulus. Like, that's a total cybernetic operation.
Rampage Jackson's kid.
Yeah, like, that's totally eradicating any sensibility, any value, any ethics, and it's pure feedback. And the audience is doing the input, the streamer is performing the action, and it's this cybernetic loop. Like, we have become cybernetic assemblages ourselves, and it's leading to horrible things like murders on live stream and suicides on live stream and mass terror attacks on live stream and shit. So this ties in with the super egoic stuff and the nihilism stuff. And like all of it comes together. And I do think we'll pat us on the back. I think we're
Well, the superego AI stuff.
yeah. But no, we need to resist becoming the machine just as much as we need to resist the machine taking over the world or whatever. Like, that's how the machine will take over the world, by us turning ourselves into the machine.
Right.
More human than human.
And so, look, I mean, I guess the last couple of things I want to clarify here in the two paragraphs about Bostrom, when Anna says, she's contrasting instrumental rationality to objective rationality, and I'm kind of going out on a limb here, but here's what I think she means. Instrumental rationality is clearly, it's machine rationality, it's functional, it is viewing things in instrumental terms in the sense of this is just equipment waiting to be used. It's what Heidegger means by standing reserves. These are resources to be used and manipulated and calculated to achieve certain ends, right? Objective rationality, I believe here, has to do with this broader human ability to reason about things in an objective way. And objective here has to do with how it's going to affect X, Y, and Z. What are the different unintended consequences? What values or effects would that have? Blah, blah, blah. And that, I think, is what she's getting at. And so this distinction is what you and I mean by intelligence and mintelligence. So mintelligence, machine intelligence, would be instrumental rationality, and hintelligence, or human intelligence, would be objective rationality. And sure, if you try to go into the details, maybe the distinction gets a little murky, sure. But at the same time, this techno-ethicist that she refers to, Matthew, how'd you say his last name?
Liao.
Matthew Liao, he has this distinction: artificial general cognitive intelligence and artificial cognitive emotional and moral intelligence. Seems to me the second is the AI trying to have our ability to be tapped into all of this other stuff, right? Moral values, goals.
That I'm definitely going to read what some of what he's written on that, because that, to me, that's like, yeah, of course, the intelligence mintelligence distinction. If there's people seriously kind of thinking about that in the machine world, because with these tech people, just the other day, I think it was Ilya Sutskever. I think it was one of the big names in the AI world, one of the founders of OpenAI or whatever. He went on some interview, and he made some statement about like the AI will need some type of emotional sense. I don't know the exact words he said, but it was something to that effect. Like, the AI will need an emotional world, or a world full of value and meaning. And it was funny. I saw a lot of people on the internet in the tech world taking that and making this sensational headline like, oh, Ilya Sutskever says AIs will have emotions and they will have emotional intelligence. He never said they will. He said they need it. So one of the leaders of the field is kind of making a speculative conjecture, but there's not really very many people in the tech world seriously tarrying with this distinction between intelligence and mintelligence. And even this guy, like, he didn't say, yeah, we're working on it. He just said, well, yeah, it'll need that too. We're not working on it. We're just over here building the fucking, the electronic typewriter. We're not doing any of that. So I'm excited to read about this kind of.
Well, yeah, this essay that he wrote, it's in Ethics of Artificial Intelligence. The essay is called A Short Introduction to the Ethics of Artificial Intelligence. Yep, I think sign us up.
Yep, right. For sure.
So, okay. I think the next three paragraphs kind of are a unit, so we should maybe work our way through them, and then we get to Zongsan.
Yep. So here we go. Even more terrifying than this occult danger is the more general problem of value alignment. The trouble with the literalness of magic and machines is that the systems or tools we create do not adequately understand that the goals we have set implicit conditions and restraints, that the goals we set have implicit conditions and restraints, going back to the world of value and meaning.
And that's also Heidegger. It's this implicit layer of our familiarity with things.
Right.
That isn't, Hubert Dreyfus always emphasized this. It's not a set of propositions. It's not cognitive in the way that old school AI programmers wanted it to be. It's this implicit, fuzzy, tacit
It's fuzzy.
texture.
It's fuzzy, yeah. It
of
can't be
know-how.
totalized, and it's embodied experience. It's
Look, it's
the
I'm sorry.
the phenomenon of being.
Most humans have a basic know-how with how to go about treating others morally. If you ask them to systematize it theoretically, none of them can even begin to do it.
Right.
So they have this implicit being with, as Heidegger would call it. But if you try to extract being with into a cognitive, proposition-based ethical theory, it's a whole nother thing.
And I just on that, like that, I think that's a feature of Western, Western thought, is that we have things that can be systematized and mathematized and scientized, and we for whatever reason started to believe that everything can be totally systematized and mathematized.
It goes back to Plato. The true intelligibility is the sharply defined intuited form, the essence of the clear identity essence of it. And it's like Heidegger would sit there and go, but before you even try to aspire to that, you're already immersed in a world of basic familiarity that operates in this background way, and that's the default. So that's actually the fundamental form of intelligibility of things. And then what you try to do when you stand back as a philosopher and decontextualize the situation and de-world thinking, no wonder you have so much trouble arriving at the intuition of the forms, because that's not what we're doing in our most basic being in the world.
Right. The tools we create do not adequately understand that the goals we set have implicit conditions and restraints. The issue of value alignment cuts much deeper. A generalized AI, no matter how cleverly secure its programming, will ultimately gain the ability to feed back on itself, reflect upon and reassess its own purpose. Like any intelligent entity, it will, at that point, be subject to inherent drives of its own. The objectives of such a self-aware artificial entity may not comply with the wants and needs of its human creators.
Can I just interject real quick? The drive reference, he references it down below. Steve Alejandro wrote the paper on, it's called The Basic AI Drives. And this is in a large part of what's inspired Nick's thinking on this transcendental drive that any AGI worthy of the name would have to have in order to have that level of intelligence.
Yep. Weiner foresaw this conundrum and was haunted by it. If machines with self-furnished intentions are to conform to human values, they must be made obedient. Yet, Weiner realized that complete intelligence and complete subservience do not go together. In his last book, written toward the end of his life, Weiner likens the concerns that bedevil cybernetics to the old story of the golem, a creature made of clay, which the mystical rabbi of Lao brought to life with a spell. The tale of the mystical golem is a proto-Frankenstein story which tells of forces which, once summoned, cannot be controlled. As the title God and Golem suggests, the morality tales that trouble Weiner, which are intimately entangled with questions of discipline and restraint, are embedded in a very specific religio-philosophical domain. In the Abrahamic religions, as soon as Adam and Eve eat the apple, The problem of knowledge and disobedience are intertwined. In the biblical traditions, the dilemma of intelligence and control is a feature, not a bug. What happens to questions of AI ethics, however, if we shift perspective and employ an altogether different cosmological approach?
So, I think it's important, like, what is Weiner's ultimate fear? I mean, and what is Bostrom, right? So, okay. David Hume famously says humans always are making this logical mistake of they always are connecting ises to oughts and oughts to ises. They're always blending them. The ought is always finding itself infused in ises. And so what the is ought thing is getting at is the fact value distinction. And for Hume, it's a fallacy. You cannot infer a value or an ought from a fact or an is. Just because something is the case doesn't mean it ought to be the case. But from a more Heideggerian perspective, Heidegger would just say, but this is where philosophy is seeking to think and trying to make sense of the world. But in a sense, you're undermining the primordial phenomenon of the world. Sorry. But the world, the ises and the oughts are infused in our being in the world. And you're at the level of our basic ontology, what it is to be human, what it is to be Dasein, you are not going to separate them. And the Heidegger famously was critiquing and attacking Descartes' subjectivism. And all I mean by that here is just Descartes separated, his metaphysics separates subjects from objects. They're two different ontological types of beings. And for Heidegger, well, if you think the subject-object schema division is the fundamental cut into the world or into being, then you can never explain the correlation between them. If you start with human beings are always world beings, that there is no separation between the human and the world, we're just immersed in our world's worlding, then this is not a problem. Descartes makes it a problem by how he imposes a metaphysical interpretation of the world onto the world. I think Heidegger could similarly make a case against Hume and say, this division you're making between ises and oughts is a theoretical present at hand concoction you're imposing on the world where you're dividing it, and then you can't get the two back together once you start with their division. Don't start with their division.
Right.
And so obviously, look, a lot of philosophers, analytic types especially, would go, no, but you can't infer. I get it. But Heidegger's response would just be like, yeah, but is that the primordial phenomenon of what it is to be in the world? And of course, Heidegger wins if that's how we're measuring the situation. So I think that Heidegger would say that what Bostrom and Weiner are afraid of is something that actually can keep these things radically divided.
Yeah.
Which is why they can't be fully immersed in a world.
Or not even can keep them radically divided, but has no choice but to keep them radically divided. Cannot not. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that would be, from where I'm sitting, the ultimate monster, right? Because I am immersed in my world. I have no choice. I cannot not be in my world. Try as I might.
So hold on. So let's keep the is and the ought completely and utterly separated. What is it to actually view the world from a perspective that does that? Didn't Dahmer, on some level, wasn't he, or at least some sort of sociopath, some sort of serial killer? Can't they just look at humans as pure bodies and value does not imbue the phenomenological experience whatsoever? I mean, if you view a human in a sense
as an object
like a lamp, I'm sorry, you're not being conceptually and philosophically rigorous you're ignoring the basic fundamental disclosure of the world that the rest of us seem to be tapped into.
You're also being the nihilist, right? Like you're being the virulent nihilist. You're being the
and not the fake nihilist from Big Lebowski
right.
that actually do care about
right. Or not even the type of nihilist that I would self-identify as. Which it's not rigorous. It's just, yeah, it feels good. I'm gonna wear that shirt today. But
look,
you are
because being a nihilist is always such a problem for the nihilist. This is
right.
Is a true nihilist. Nihilism's no problem whatsoever. That's the mark of a true nihilist.
Yeah, and like it is that feedback loop. It's that kind of machinic operation. That is what the machine. That is what it does. Like that is what these LLMs do. That is what the machine does. That's what our computers do. That's what capital does. And we are becoming more like capital. We already see ourselves like we're in these feedback loops. We're part of this sadistic, solipsistic. Well, I don't even know if you can be sadistic if you're solipsistic, but we're in this solipsistic assemblage where everything is an object. Everything is you are a total and holistic object, and the world outside you is a total object, and that nothing fucking matters because none of it's real. That's the tendency of capital that we are caught up in today. That's why fault line matters. Like that's like we're like, hey guys, we see this tendency developing.
And what is fault line? Because some people here probably don't know what that is.
You may not know. Fault line is just this divide between CCRU thinkers and now, this urbanomics collection, this really steeped in, I don't know, I want to say like Spinoza, Schopenhauer, Deleuze and Guattari, I would say Bataille, but like coming out of the CCRU, the Cybernetic Cultural Research Unit, Nick Land, and a lot of the other thinkers in this text that we're reading, and then the Ljubljana school that's really kind of doing this, Freud, Lacan, and then you have Žižek and Todd McGowan are carrying
which is
the
the ultimate defense of subjectivity side of this.
Right. So you have the object, you have the subject clashing here at the end of history. And that's fault line. So fault line is Mikey, that's capital versus subjectivity. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put these two methods of analysis together because I think they both have valuable insights into what's happening in the world we live in today. And rather than staying siloed back and saying, oh, we're just going to do psychoanalysis, or, oh, we're just going to do continental philosophy, we're just going to do cybernetics. Like it really is trying to grapple with the world we live in today. And again, pat us on the back. Like I think with the kind of superego capital AI technology assemblage
you can't arrive
machine,
at that without bridging the gap between these two.
100%.
Between Ljubljana and CCRU.
100%. If you're listening and you haven't, read the piece we wrote, Enjoy Your Surveillance, on capitalistic, on superego.
Is it available? Is it up right now?
Oh, it may not be up.
Because, okay, so it was published by Everyday Analysis, but they have been rebuilding their website, so I'm not sure if it's currently up.
It may not be up, but it will, barring the unforeseeable, it will be available again soon. Soon is a relative term, but yeah, it will be available again in the future, along with more pieces as well.
So, yeah, I mean, look, for me, fault line theory, I mean, for me, it's the most natural thing because I just was always doing this, and so were you.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's why you and I have so much philosophical compatibility.
Synergy.
We both, yeah, exactly. For me, it's like I can't think our situation without Slavoj Žižek and Nick Land. I can't think it without Alenka Zupancic and Anna Greenspan. I can't think 100%. It without, Todd McGowan, but also Amy Ireland now. Like, it's just this whole odd constellation of two groups that largely stayed isolated from each other, but have been constant influences on my work from the beginning. So,
well, and I think there's a lot of, I mean, I want to get romantic and say kismet. Like there are a lot of moments of synchrony. There's a lot of harmony between CCRU and Ljubljana School. I really do think so. Like going back to the 90s, like there is a lot of harmonies there, but it's just such a different approach, and it's such a different background, and it's such a different trajectory that it does take people from the outside to kind of put it together. You would never go to a university and study fault line.
No,
maybe you will in the future.
Right.
Maybe you will in the future, but growing up in the 90s and in the 2000s, like people who read Mark Fisher don't read Žižek. People who read Žižek don't read Nick Land. People who read, they're just totally separate.
And the big divide obviously is Hegel versus Deleuze. And I've been reading both of them for so long that,
yeah,
and so, or it's D&G versus Lacan, been, tapped into that contradiction for over a decade. So no, it just turned out. And then, because I was one of the early students at the New Center, I was tapped into I started taking classes there right when this hit, the accelerationist reader. And this really changed everything for me as I worked my way through that. But also that's when Žižek was blowing up and becoming, it started a couple years, I think, before that, but early 2010s, Slavoj really kind of hit the scene after the Occupy Wall Street thing.
Yeah.
And so, that's when I started to hear about him all the time.
Was it Sophie Fiennes made the Pervert's Guides?
Yeah. Pervert's Guide to Cinema was first.
Shout out Ray Fiennes' sister. Who knew that Voldemort's sister was based, man?
Yeah.
And Red Dragon? You got to be kidding me.
I hear that they're making a sequel, not to Red Dragon. I'm not. They made the sequel before they made that. So
yeah. They're making a sequel to what? Harry Potter or the Pervert's Guide?
No. They're doing a third Pervert's Guide, as far as I know.
Oh yeah. So, hell yeah.
Yeah, can't wait for that. Wonder what it'll be.
That'll be the Pervert's Guide till the Pervert's Guide to the end of the world.
Pervert's Guide to the Apocalypse.
Yeah. That'd be perfect, dude.
So
okay.
So let's go in. Okay, so look. Here's the thing. Anna's saying our whole way of approaching AI is caught up with old school Western presuppositions and binary oppositions. And they're rooted in Christianity and that religious tradition. What happens if we stop thinking AI through Western Christian, oppositions and values, and we place it in a different metaphysic?
Yep.
And so this is where the Neo-Confucianism comes into play.
The new Confucian philosopher Mou Zongsan, 1909 through 1995, is widely considered one of the most important figures in China's modern intellectual history. And again, man, I'm such a dumbass American. I've never even heard of this guy.
Me too.
So his work synthesizes readings and interpretations of Chinese classical texts, the long history of the Neo-Confucian tradition, the diverse schools of Buddhist metaphysics, and various works of Western philosophy. In his encounters with the Western canon, Mo is particularly drawn to the critical thinking of Immanuel Kant. One way to approach his philosophy is as a critique of transcendental thought. Famously, for Kant, the domain of reason is fundamentally limited. The world that we can legitimately know and experience is very strictly contained. Kantian thought demarcates a secure land for truth, but views it as surrounded by a wide and stormy ocean that is home to illusion. Outside the clear limits of reason is a noumenal realm, an ultimate reality beyond understanding, which we cannot ever apprehend. Between things and us, writes Schopenhauer, explaining this most basic Kantian divide, there still always stands the intellect, so that they cannot be known as they may be in themselves. According to Mou Zongsan, this fundamental principle of Kantian critique is an artificial constraint. Kant restricted reason, he argues, only to ensure its alignment with the authority of Judeo-Christian beliefs. On this, Kant is explicit. He denies the possibility of intellectual intuition or knowledge of the thing in itself in order to leave room for faith. For Mou Zongsan, on the other hand, unbounded knowledge is not impossible. It is merely buried, hidden, and difficult to reach. Cultivating this latent capacity, moreover, is precisely what the Chinese religio-philosophical tradition is for. All Chinese people affirm, whether Confucian, Taoist, or Buddhist, that humans have this intellectual intuition, writes Mo. Take that away, and all Chinese philosophy collapses into nothing more than a crazy dream. Whew.
Okay. So, first off, what Anna's doing here is, because it's not like Anna's going to go into like, here's every bit of what Anna thinks about Zongsan. Right here, she's trying her best to summarize him as clearly as possible and as succinctly as possible.
Yeah.
And I think she does a really good job, because I'm sitting here following every sentence going, okay, I'm if this is what Zongsan believes, then I'm understanding what you're saying about him.
Yeah.
Do I want to, does Kant limit reason just to leave room for faith? I mean, that's this famous thing, this famous, declaration he makes. But there's reasons beyond that. Like, he's caught up in a whole series of philosophical conceptual antagonisms, and leave Christianity aside for a second, right?
Right.
He's trying to figure out how to square Leibnizian space-time with Einsteinian space-time. So it's relational. No, it's absolute. How do I figure that out? Because he's sitting there going, I think both are right in a sense, but trying to figure out how to figure this out is very tricky.
Yeah.
I want to take Hume seriously, Kant says. And he's like, I take this critique of causality seriously. Well, okay, if causality is just this inductive thing, it doesn't have the necessity that we want causality to have. So these are deep philosophical issues that Kant is trying to figure out how to make sense of and organize, and he does it through figuring out how to limit reason, which is to say, by introducing this transcendental domain. Our minds have certain rules and protocols that they impose on raw sense data unconsciously, not the Freudian unconscious. This is like the Kantian epistemological unconscious. These syntheses of the mind, this way that we organize sense data into temporal, spatial, causal, substantial, blah, 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 right? Modes of apprehension. This is all at play. So his way of figuring out how to square Leibniz and Newton is by making time and space these pure intuitions of the mind. That's how he tries to figure it out. He tries to save causality and give it necessity by, instead of saying it's this principle operative in the universe in and of itself, no, it's a necessary a priori protocol that all human minds impose on sense data. And because all of our minds do it, we collectively can say it's true, right? It is how we all must organize our experience. say all that just to say, all that's going on outside of trying to save room for faith. So I just feel like kind of, steel manning Kant there.
And I think I think Kant has heretofore borne out to be supported. I mean, looking at things like Bell's theorem and like the non-locality principles and shit like that, like the weird fucky bits of physics and quantum physics and shit like that, like the Sudoku universe, right? Like, as opposed to you have A theory at time, B theory at time, block universe, whatever. Well, like there's this other question of like Sudoku. Might there be something at work, some type of super determinism at work that it determines the physical world, or it determines the world as such, but from our perspective, it just doesn't track. It breaks causality from our perspective. Like I think the questions that are being asked in these advanced physics debates today vindicate Kant in this way, where it's like, no, that the human sensorium is an apparatus. Like we are a machine, and we do have not principles, but like necessity is always contingent, and it like the world we see is contingent on the equipment we see it with. And I think that's borne out. But again, I don't know. That could just be because I'm a Western subject, and I can't see beyond the project of trying to make the world intelligible in this way. But no, I I think Kant was right.
Well, and now here's the thing. I think you're more Kantian in certain ways than I am. I think I'm a bit more Hegelian, where I go, yeah, like the thing in itself is really just the limit of experience, then kind of projected out. And I'm not saying you actually, like, this would be a whole conversation. Like, we could derail this if we go into this right now. So maybe we'll save this for another time. But, okay, here's what we need to say right now, is that Kant is saying that there's a realm of things that we cannot have an experience of, we cannot access, because all we can access is the world of appearances or phenomena. And Zongsan is saying that baked into Chinese, the Chinese philosophical tradition, Confucius, Taoist, and Buddhist all together, they all have a consensus here, which is there is a way to access the noumenon, the thing in itself. And that is a very bold, I mean, when you view it from this Western philosophical tradition that's post-Kantian, that's a bold claim. Now, what's interesting, like, I mean, Nick Land, Fang Noumena, right? There's a thing where the CCRU had some sense of being able to contact or traffic with the outside. And so if the CCRU, now there's very specific ways, like for Land, of course, it's Kabbalah and, alphanumeric, gematria and all, right? Okay. But if you take the CCRU Landian thing of there is an outside and there's a way to traffic with it, and if Chinese philosophy is asserting the same thing, you can see the philosophical connection between CCRU and the Chinese philosophical tradition.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it raises, there's a lot of kooks. And I think, for me anyway, it's easy to spot a kook if they're firmly planted in the Western tradition. Because it's like, well, yeah, if you're going to go on about, magic and mystical and blah, 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 this and that, you're just a kook. Like, we're here to do serious philosophy, whatever that means. But we have more I guess, strict delineations between the mystical and the material in the West, and that's comforting. So I think, I don't know, like, it's just radical to me to not have that hard demarcation between the mystical and the material. Like, I almost
that's
rely
exactly
on that.
what we're getting at here, the direction we're headed in.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, let's hear more about Zongsan.
Mo Zongsan develops his thought by drawing on the teachings of Buddhist metaphysics. He adheres to the Chinese Mahayana philosophy. I thought Mahayana was Indian. I didn't realize it was Chinese. Maybe it's an import. I don't know.
But is it? Because wait, no, it's Theravada and Mahayana.
And then there's Zen, which is totally different. Yeah.
But I don't know if I think he's saying the Chinese version
picked up
of Mahayana Buddhism.
Yeah. He adheres to the Chinese Mahayana philosophy, which holds that all sentient beings have inherent Buddha nature. Like his teacher, Jiangxi.
Good luck.
Yeah. Jiangxi. He argues, in accordance with the classical Chinese Mahayana Buddhist text, The Awakening of the Faith, that the mind has two doors, or gates. One, which corresponds to the Kantian notion of theoretical reason, opens onto the empirical world of phenomenal manifestation. The second gate, which opens onto ultimate reality, or Buddha nature, is able to access a realm beyond the limits Kant demarcated as the legitimate domain of reason.
Gate 1 is the inside or the great indoors. Gate
Holy
2
shit.
is the outside or the great outdoors.
Oh, Jesus. That's a little pneumogram. If you guys don't get it, go watch the 6 hours of pneumograms on the Dangerous Maybes YouTube channel. But holy shit.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, I see how a former CCRU member would see that and go, okay.
Yep.
See what we're working with. Home sweet home.
In this Buddhism-infused neo-Confucian vision, cultivating this enlightened state is an ethics intrinsic to intelligence. Sentient beings, as Kant understood well, are caught in a world of illusory manifestation. The soteriological aim embraced by Chinese philosophy is to break free from this immersion in phenomenal appearances and connect with a reality that is always there but remains masked and obscured. The objective of all sentient life, both ethical and intellectual, is to cultivate the mind so that it can open the true gate, such that the 10,000 things are revealed as they are in themselves.
I like the 10,000 things as a name for noumena. That's cool. I just want to say that when Anna says the soteriological aim embraced by Chinese philosophy, just for people who don't know the theology jargon, it's referring to salvation. The soteriological, it's the salvific. And so
rather than being an eschatology, which is concerned with like the end of all things and damnation, the soteriological would be concerned with the ascension.
Right. And like soteriology would be, I mean, if in a Christian context, it's concerned with precisely how Christ's sacrifice saves us.
Yeah. Like the works or is it works or faith? Yeah, works or faith. Like, Can you get to heaven on good works alone, or can you get to heaven on faith alone? This and that. That's a soteriological
Exactly. So if somebody's
debate.
having that debate, they're having a soteriological. But this is okay. So look, I think the key thing that Anna says here is the objective of all sentient life, both ethical and intellectual. There's no going back to orthogonality thesis. This aim is one that does not rely on this separation that structures the orthogonality thesis. It's going to collapse that distinction into one another, right?
Hmm.
The objective of all sentient life, both ethical and intellectual, or when it comes to values and when it comes to facts, is to cultivate the mind so that it can open the true gate such that the 10,000 things are revealed as they are in themselves, which is to say to have a intellectual intuition or to see things in all their as they are and with all the meaning and value they have in a direct intuition.
I wonder if AI psychosis, to use a term.
Explain if somebody hasn't heard of it, what does that mean?
So AI psychosis, it's taking the internet by storm. It's taking the world by storm, where people are finding themselves convinced that their AI chatbot, their LLMs, their GPTs have some type of cosmic insight or some type of divine insight. There's that one thing that actually we need to do an episode about the spiral.
A spiralism, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Spiralism is one, but you see it with people marrying their AI companions and people killing themselves over their AI companions. Like it's people losing contact, losing connection, becoming psychotic, in quotes, because they're interacting with the LLMs and they're becoming convinced that the LLMs are sentient and wise beyond their measure.
Could we, in Baudrillardian terms, say this is an issue of them losing themselves, not falling away from reality, but being all too immersed in hyperreality? That
absolutely.
The
They're diving
LLM is
head
more
first.
real than everything else.
Yes. Well, and that's the problem. More human than human, more real than real. Like that is the problem. And I wonder if that problem is such a big problem in China, because it seems to be like just what
is
we've
that a
read so
Western
far.
thing Baudrillard's talking about?
I think from what we've read so far, I would then go on to speculate, well, then the Chinese sentiment towards LLMs is not the same as the Western sentiment towards LLMs. Because in the West, we have people who really genuinely believe these things are like magically
Well, is anybody in
intelligent
China dealing with
somehow.
AI psychosis? That's an empirical question.
I wonder. I don't.
Yeah.
We could probably look it up, but we probably wouldn't get good data without really looking into it. But like I this leads me to say, well, then they're not having the same conversation about instrumental reason, because like their view on intelligence is radically different from our view on intelligence.
But is it because they have a different default traditional understanding of being? I keep bringing Heidegger up because Heidegger's been on my mind. But is this a crisis for us because we're in a crisis of our history of being, and they're not so much, even though they have capitalism?
Yeah.
But Heidegger's point is you can have technology without being stuck in the crisis of the technological understanding of being. They can have,
Cernicek and Williams like that, and the hashtag accelerate, the accelerationist reader, like that is the point. Like we need to find a way to unleash technology from capital
and have a different understanding of being with, like, that's what Ian Thompson, what I love about his book, is he's saying like what Heidegger would say, let's have these AI technologies and let's find ways for them to help us transcend the technological understanding of being into what just Heidegger calls the other beginning.
Rather than just hyper inframing ourselves in framo-cucking. Like
exactly. So there's a sense where Heidegger could view these new advances in AI tech as tools or pathways to be used to escape inframe.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think the potential is there. However, the machine, there's so much inertia with the companies that are developing LLMs and the way LLMs are being implemented and stuff. And even if this radical emancipatory potential exists in AI, I think it does. Like I have two fantasies: Star Trek: The Next Generation and Mad Max. Like those are the two fundamental fantasies
orienting
that condition
images of the future.
Yeah, like that's how I orient myself. So I think the potential is there.
And we want Star Trek. Like, let's just own it.
We want Star Trek. We don't want Mad Max.
And
I
we'll
don't
probably
want to
get
go
Mad
to the
Max.
Thunderdome, dude. We'll probably get it. But I feel like this.
Can I say that both are better because
Chinese-
you don't have to work a job in either?
That's the fantasy of Mad Max, right? Because it is an escape. It's an escape from the doldrums of the world we live in today, even though it would be horrifying and we would probably die immediately.
Well, why do we also like, there's some part of us, don't like, everybody, if you've seen the movie, don't lie. There's some part of you that likes being stuck on that fucking island like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Even though it's terrible. It's terrible. But the attraction is, my God, you exist, but you don't have to deal with all this fucking
Robinson fucking Crusoe, dude.
Yeah. Right? That's what there's a phantasmatic attractor in that situation. And it's like, I get to escape all this fuckery I have to deal with day in and day out. And so, but it's like, yeah, if you get a cavity, you're not having a good time.
Fucking dunzo.
But
especially
if you don't have an ice skate, but
yeah.
and ice skate plus intestinal fortitude.
And a spare volleyball to generate
he couldn't have survived
spontaneously
without
generate
Wilson.
a companion. Wilson's the protagonist of Castaway.
I think so, yeah.
But I do like, we have in the West, I think the predominant view of intelligence is just instrumental reason. That's why it's so difficult. It's like climbing up a hill for us to make the distinction between hintelligence and mintelligence. Like, we're out here trying to say, yeah, but we do something different. But it feels like China, it's all hintelligence.
We're stuck in inframing.
Exactly.
And that's the question. I'd love to ask Ian Thompson that at some point. Do you think other places in the world, whether it's India, whether it's China, sure they have capitalism, sure they're stuck having capitalist dynamics in their economy, do they have inframing? And you know, sorry, but like, this is also where someone like Dugan comes in, where he's trying to say, you know, using Heidegger in his own way. And look, if he's getting at something important, it is this importance between the background familiarity we have with things and the things themselves. And I think that's what Anna is trying to do here. She's trying to take this question of AI and say, let's place it in a different understanding of being or a different metaphysical backdrop. And that is interesting to do. And I think that challenges our default operative presuppositions.
That
gets us thinking about this.
That's exactly it.
Where were we?
Right here, what is that? Mo is clear that one cannot acquire this kind of ethical knowledge through a theoretical examination of the external world. Rather, awakening is only attained through inwardly directed practice. Here, he contends, there is consistency between his own ethical thought and the practical reason that guides Kantian moral philosophy, which insists on the internal autonomy of the moral law. For Kant, the necessity of the categorical imperative stems from the freedom of reason itself, rather than from any external injunction to obey. Kantian morality is framed in terms of duty, reverence, and submission, but it emphatically rejects all forms of heteronomy. True moral action cannot rely on adherence to external rules that are dictated from above, whether these are derived from the authority of the individual, the needs of a community, the laws of the state, or even divine commands. Rather, Kantian moral duty, the domain of practical reason, is imposed internally by the workings of reason itself and strictly depends upon the autonomy of the will. It is only the free choice of the rational subject that can ground the necessity of moral law.
Okay, so Mo likes Kant on this question of ethics. It's because Kant says ultimately the human being is self-legislative. The human being acts freely and has to take responsibility for its actions on the basis of what it determines to be the law. And so, yes, there's this categorical imperative that he thinks, I mean, most people don't do this explicitly or theoretically, but it's some kind of principle through which we understand it guides us in actions that are not conditional or ones based in self-interest, right? It's this non-self-interest type of action where it's like, can I universalize this? Can I make this a default setting that all human beings would do this in this situation, right? But you could say, well, isn't the categorical imperative an objective external authority? There's a way you could view it like that, but the point is that this is something operative within the subject. And so now the thing, of course, is that, and Heidegger pointed this out, this is where Heidegger thinks Nietzsche thought the unthought in Kant, and that there's a sense in which the death of God is this thing that occurs at the level of culture and society. But for Nietzsche, like, the death of God is really what Kant did with morality. Because Kant's the one who's saying, no, morality or ethics is ultimately rooted in the self-legislating subject, not in the divine commands of God. And that's where you effectively murder God. And so, yeah.
Like the classical literature and you know, the pre-modern literature, you always have people who are commanded by God to do something, or they're commanded by honor to do something, or they're dictated, like they have a cookie cutter world that they have to contort themselves into to live up to the world around them or the divine commandment or whatever. But with Kant, it's like, yeah, you can think all that, but ultimately at the end of the day, like, if you're like, if you are the modern subject, like, you have to recognize that you are the one who is choosing to act. It's not because God commanded that you do the thing. It's because you decided to do the thing.
You
and
have
you can
this,
have
this legislating test that you have built into you, but you ultimately discern what it says, what it like. You have to take that and apply it and act on it, and so it ultimately is on the side of the subject. So okay, so far what we've got is Mo does not dig this idea in Kant that you can never have access to the thing in itself.
the thing in
He
itself.
does like that Kant situates the ethical in the self-legislating subject. So those are like the two things so far.
He's doing this thing already where he's tying the ethical to reason, to the agent. Like, in order to be an agent, you are already a moral subject.
But if you have access to the outside, then is the outside completely separate from the ethical?
Yeah.
Because the point of this Buddha nature is that it's enlightenment both in an ethical and theoretical sense. And I wish there,
yeah, that is a fucking conundrum.
Intellectual, where it's ethic and intellectual. It's that you have to, and you need a neologism to say they're inseparable.
So, in this, me trying to make sense of this, it's to say that we can have access to truth, capital T. We can know the ultimate, the ground truth, and we're still free to act. We're free to disregard the truth if we choose to do so, but because we're intelligent, we will
Would that
we
be
will choose the true thing
the lure
regardless.
of phenomena, like part of
Well, that would be the
part of
temptation
not
of the
truly
devil,
being
wouldn't it?
fully self-realized in this situation is something like reducing what is to phenomena.
So that's the devil. The
I think
phenomena.
something like that.
The phenomenon is the temptress, or is the devil tempting Jesus with the bread or whatever.
And look,
And
all
the
all
noumena
religions,
is-
in a sense, are, they have this issue with us being overly worldly,
Yeah.
not in touch or pursuing the higher.
But having this Mahayana influence, like it necessitates, like the truth of all things would be like the wheel of reincarnation and nirvana and enlightenment and this and that, and so like an intelligent being, an intelligent being or whatever, would aspire towards this truth. And if you are intelligent, you will necessarily understand that the true and the ethical is one and the same. And so you're
intertwined.
Right. So I mean, it
So
is
the point
difficult
is,
to get your
the
head
higher
around.
your level of intelligence, necessarily the higher your ethical comprehension,
Right.
which
right.
goes against the orthogonality thesis.
Right. In an interesting way, in a really
Right.
interesting, because it's not making recourse to Jehovah. And
Well, look, if you did
prohibition
achieve
and-
Buddha nature, it's not like, oh, I've achieved Buddha nature because I've amassed this amount of facts or knowledge
right.
about things. That in and of itself would not be it. It's part of it, I believe, but it has to be, the correlate to it is ethical enlightenment as well. And that, in a
Yeah.
sense, those facts, that knowledge can only truly resonate or be known via the ethics through which you're comprehending it.
Yeah.
Hold on, Nance. Cut out.
Oh.
You there?
Oh shit. Yeah, my bad.
Hold on. Wait a second.
Shit.
Now
Hold on. Am I
that's
back?
better. That's better.
What? God damn it, dude. My internet is fucking up somehow.
Well, that's much better.
Okay. Golly, dude. I have super fucking high speed internet. I fucking don't know what's going on. All right. Am I back now?
You're back. We're good.
Fucking stupid shit.
It's all good. What lemur is
so-
responsible for that?
The one who doesn't like what we're getting into right now. Is it
This K-Tac.
Takitix? It's
K-Tac.
K-Tac.
Yeah, K-Tac
Yeah,
is the one,
K-Tac.
the slide down into like where it all
Yep.
breaks apart. Thanks a lot, K-Tac.
So we're climbing up this tree of kind of the ethical and the true are kind of one and the same. It's not about collecting facts or predicates about the world. It's about like, in order to be this intelligent agent, you're also going to have this there's this ethical dimension to intelligence itself.
Well,
which
isn't this in Levinas in a certain way? Like the encounter with the other is an encounter, but
I think so.
It's an ought. The is and the
It
ought
is an ought.
are there
It is.
intertwined in the face of the other.
And the thing for me, like, well, going back to the conversation we recently had with Sean, where we were talking about truth and like saying, yeah, I don't care about like ultimate cosmic truth. I care about truth insofar as it's ethical, like insofar as truth is like an ethical question.
I think that's what
It
Mo's
matters.
getting at here.
In a really interesting way. Definitely gonna have to read more of this guy.
Okay, so this next paragraph. Hold on. There we go. All right. In Kant, the idea of freedom, therefore, is an a priori condition for morality, which is to say, the idea of freedom is transcendental. It makes morality possible, right? It's a necessary condition of. We are obliged to assume that the moral subject has free choice. No justification can be given for this belief on the basis of our knowledge or understanding. So you can't strictly prove that we're free. The point is, it's like a transcendental presupposition. It makes something possible by assuming it. In the Kantian system, the idea of freedom, like the idea of God and immortality, those are the three big moral transcendental ideals or ideas for Kant, pushes against the supersensible boundary of human reason as an absolute outside. We sense that it is there, but locked in the world of empirical phenomena as we are forever blocked from accessing it. Transcendental philosophy contends that the internal reflection that constitutes morality ends with legislative adherence to an abstract universal law. Chinese ethics, as presented by Mo, has a more cosmo-ontological orientation. He describes this as moral metaphysics, a term deliberately chosen to contrast with Kant's metaphysics of morals. For Kant, as Sebastian Billiaud explains, morality, so for Kant, morality is the object of inquiry. The aim of critique is to identify theoretically the metaphysical principles of moral action. Mo inverts this project. Moral metaphysics does not seek the metaphysical ground of morals, but holds instead that morality is knowledge of the universe in its metaphysical dimensions. Now, this is different, but I'm sorry, this has got some Levinasian resonance here.
Yeah.
Right? Ethics is first philosophy. It outlines the practical approach towards the actualization in our lives and through our deeds, including emotion and intentions, of the ultimate metaphysical, cosmological, ontological reality shared by both the universe and our nature.
It definitely feels Levinasian, and I was thinking of Hannah Arendt, responsibility and judgment, but that does kind of rely on like a phenomenological experience of the world, and from there you can kind of go on to intuit the ethical dimension. So it is weird, just I don't know, just because I largely don't care about metaphysics, like but
it is interesting, like to say that to get metaphysics right, it's by going the moral path. Like that's
right.
And I've heard you say things that hint of that.
And I think, like, I don't know. I just, again, like it always grounds out in the material world. It's always like, yeah, and all this is true because we find ourselves already here. So like this is all kind of predicated on us, our subjectivity and our phenomenological experience of all this. So to come at it from this angle of like, no, this is true in the metaphysical sense, it's weird because it's like, yeah, I don't care about the universe. I don't care about metaphysics. I don't care about that stuff, but I'm still arriving
at the world.
Yeah. Like I care about the world we live in. I care about the world as
which would be phenomena.
Yeah. I don't care about the world in itself. I care about the world as it presents itself to us.
I think what Mo would say is that to care about the phenomenal world, is to be in touch with
on this
more
on this
metaphysical
path of
yes.
ethical intelligence or
Right.
What did you
Look,
intelligence?
Intellectual.
Yeah.
I know some of these
I like that word.
neologisms do not roll off the tongue at first, but eventually
I like that one,
it's
though.
not that big of a problem. I think this is the key paragraph here to what like Mo's philosophy is all about. Is it just so we say his first name, we don't say that Zongsan, like how we would say Schopenhauer, not Arthur. I feel like I'm saying his first name and not his last name. Is it flipped?
They're flipped in a lot of. I'm sure it's flipped but yeah, in China in general.
I'm so American right now.
It's flipped. Like Xi Jinping, like Xi is his last name.
Okay.
Jinping is the given name and Xi is the family name. So I'm assuming with Mo Zongsan, Zongsan is the given name and Mo is the family name.
Okay, cool. According to Mo, our inherent moral feeling exists as an already awakened state, Buddha nature. This manifests physically as internal vibrations of the heart/mind. Again, heart and mind are typically separated.
Yeah.
They're being connected, which ethical practice seeks to cultivate. Ethics opens a gate to a realm beyond the transcendental horizon. It is the means through which sentient beings cultivate attunement between their own internal constitutive nature and the Tao or way of the ontocosmological outside. So I don't know if Mo would like this. I don't know how Anna would feel, but it's almost a kind of ethical fusionism that keeping things separate here doesn't work. Not theoretically and not ethically.
Well, I think it's a compelling way to kind of launch the argument that we here in the West have this kind of rot at the core of our intellectual tradition, and it is the separation. And it's like that's why capital has gone bonkers in the West. And it's not to say, look, it's not to erase history. I know capital is alive and well in Asia just as well, but it's different.
But exchange value isn't value in the meaningful sense. Right. Exchange value is more of an is than a value. Like, yeah, it's value in a impersonal, differential, referential network, but it's not.
Well, and it's the is of exchange value makes it impossible to see the ought of use value. And like, that's what, like, because the Western tradition has made this split and kind of predicated
the houses
the modern
owned
world
by
on
banks
the
that could perfectly house people.
Holy shit, dude.
To be given to those people. But the exchange value says, no.
So I don't know the numbers now, but I know, like, before COVID, I looked into it, and there was something around 700,000 homeless people sleeping on the streets every night in America. And there were like 3.5 million unoccupied homes as investment properties.
And Marx and the Marxists understand this contradiction. Sorry, this is one of the contradictions of capitalism. The use value, in a sense, is saying someone ought to be using me as a use value. That's my purpose.
Absolutely.
I am a use value.
Absolutely.
And the exchange value is saying, no. But you want to go,
well,
but the real value is in the use. And
like compounding layers of simulation and abstraction are allowing capital to kind of come in and just totally set up shop and totally take up all the room and eradicate all the ought and all the use and just replace it with exchange and sign value and that I think is probably more Western than more Chinese, at least, based on like.
And again, does it have something to do with our very horizon of meaning? Like the meaning of all meaning for us is capital / inframing, which you and I don't disassociate as much as Marxists want to disassociate capital from inframing. Heideggerians want to disassociate inframing from capital. And we're over here going, they're the same goddamn thing.
It's the same picture.
I'm sorry. It's like when Nick was saying, like, if you don't understand capitalism is artificial intelligence and you don't understand that artificial intelligence can only be produced by you're not seeing them as identical. Like, they're one and the same process. Inframing and capital for us.
Same goddamn
Two ways of getting at the same thing ultimately.
Yeah.
But the point is, the Chinese might not be so susceptible to some of this if they don't have inframing as their basic understanding of being.
And they may not have inframing as this kind of default mode because their civilization isn't predicated on this split, this kind of hard line between the is-ought.
Here's a question. Can you better manage capitalism if you don't have inframing as your default setting?
Ooh. I mean, I think China's doing a hell of a job at managing capitalism compared to the West.
Right.
Compared to the world we live in today, dude, China's a shining city on a hill.
So it makes you wonder if the fact, I mean, that's the funny twist in this whole history is that the communist state has turned out to be better manager of capital than Western entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Give me Chinese capitalism with Chinese characteristics or whatever they say it. But no, right. I mean, look at right now the crisis that Western media is trying to paint about China's economy is that things are too cheap. Like legit, just Google any Western coverage of China's economy and they'll be like, oh, they're in a crisis because things are too cheap in China. and they're like, oh no, this, industry isn't going to grow and people are going to lose their jobs because people can't afford or because people don't want to buy new commodity. It's just like, no, dude, the government steps in and regulates things when they need to because the government has this relationship to capital where they're like, we're in charge.
And
whereas here in the
we'll
West,
use the market as much as we need to. Over here, because we have such a almost religious.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, the market. Like, what if you just actually, if you don't have inframing as your default and you just view the market as another tool among others, to produce a different, a better society or something. And no, but if you let the market perform this absolute reductionism on all things, does it actually make the market work less? So that's the whole twist on the Randian type of libertarian. What if you allowing the market to have absolute sway clogs up the market?
Well, because it's the machine starts to run out of control. And because the machine is an idiot at this point, it's still dumber than us. It's going to gunk up the works and it's going to cause problems for itself. Now, if you have a more intelligent agent directing the flows and kind of calling the shots, then of course it's going to be a more efficient machine.
Or does market value work better when it's against the backdrop of other values that are held higher? That's
right. Yeah.
Where it's not the lone value.
When all you have is this type of exchange value or this type of market value, the machine starts to cannibalize itself.
Yeah. Okay, so all right. Now she's gonna pivot back and connect Mo to orthogonality thesis and Bostrom. So that kind of home stretch. This is getting in. There's 4 more paragraphs. Let's do this and then be out of here.
According to Mo, our inherent moral feeling exists as an already awakened state or Buddha nature. This manifests physically as internal vibrations of the heart mind. You just read this paragraph.
Yeah. But it's good to read it. It's short. Let's read it again.
This manifests physically as internal vibrations of the heart and mind, or the heart-mind, which ethical practice seeks to cultivate. Ethics opens a gate to a realm beyond the transcendental horizon. It is the means through which sentient beings cultivate attunement between their own internal constitutive nature, Jingti, and the Tao, or Wei, Daoqi, of the ontocosmological outside.
Okay, hold on. This before we go in, I guess the Western rebuttal I have at this moment is this. And maybe, look, Anna is summarizing. She's presenting what Mo's beliefs are. It's not really so much a rebuttal, it's more of a question. Here's the thing. When Kant was doing his thing in Critique of Pure Reason and Critique of Practical Reason, he was arriving at these positions based on the best argumentation he could manage. This whole thing with Buddha nature, there's part of me that wants to go prove that that's a thing. In the same way that if somebody in the Abrahamic tradition, I want to go prove that the soul exists. You're resting. Now, I know the Kantian thing of you presuppose it, Bob. Okay, that's the Kantian answer. But in this case of this the Buddha nature, it seems like something that they assert. It's not something they argue for or prove. And I don't think you can prove is.
It also feels like in the West, we kind of just do assert instrumental reason as intelligence. Like the Western view of intelligence is just this, the ability to complete a goal in the environment. Like that instrumental reason. That is the Western presupposition of what intelligence is. Like and there's no real accounting for it. And there are people who really try to interrogate it and really get their hands dirty, but it always breaks down into this fuzzy thing. I think the Buddha nature could possibly be like that, like just for whatever reason they settled on Buddha nature. I also feel I am often very happy to just posit subjectivity. And I think, well, if we posit subjectivity, it's only fair that we allow them to posit Buddha nature.
Although, but again, we argue for like how subjectivity emerges out of human consciousness based on prohibition. Like, all I'm saying is that if
I'll bet there's some rigorous literature on the Buddha nature. I'll bet there is.
Fair enough. I just, for me, at this point, just coming in at this introductory level, it seems like this is almost the master signifier. This is the big orienting principle in all this. And there's just a part of me that says, okay, so this is asserted that everybody can tap into this, and that this involves intellectual intuition, that you can actually have an encounter with things in themselves. I do like my default as a thinker is to go, what evidence do you have that supports that?
Right. You can assert it, but you don't account for it. Right. Like we have to do a rigorous accounting.
I'm sorry, but I would hold when Nietzsche does the thought, if eternal return is just a thought experiment, fine.
Yeah.
If it's an actual metaphysical thesis, I go, what evidence do you have for this? Like,
no, and I think it's a great thought experiment. I really do. But as a true thing, get the fuck out of here.
And so all I'm saying is, I think that this ideal of Buddha nature could, as an ideal, help make people's lives better, no doubt.
Yeah.
Is there a metaphysical thing, like you literally can encounter things in themselves? Like that's a different level of claim.
Like, because religion and philosophy have been sundered for us, and like we have no choice but to see them as separate.
And this is where I said earlier about that. This is where I have my issue, because I'm used to separating them.
Well, and it's, I'll be honest, I like this, but it's not even like what we're used to and what we're comfortable doing. I also do think it is ultimately true. Like, I do think we have to separate the mystical from the material. Like, I think we have to, even though this is a compelling kind of, not argument, but like, I think it's a good framework and I think it's a good structure, even if I like disagree with it at this fundamental level.
Okay, but here's the thing. You just said the word mystical. Let's go, because you haven't read the end. Let's see how how she quilts this.
All right.
Is interesting. Yeah.
Did I do the foot and mouth disease? Am I about to be chastised for and I'm not just dismissing this as mystical. I'm not.
No.
I'm not trying to.
But she gets to the mystical here. Like, she makes a statement about it.
Both the orthogonality thesis and the problem of value alignment presume a fundamental divide between being and acting. As AI becomes ever more powerful and ubiquitous, the calls for a solution to this rupture grow increasingly urgent and even hysterical. Yeah, she cited Yukowski there. There appears to be a growing consensus that we establish some external moral agent or agency that will act in the name of humanity. Only then can we hope to control or contain the horror of the artificial entities, which will only ever act with single-minded instrumental rationality. Some contend that this exogenous morality should come in the form of a regulatory body. Others maintain that the moral laws can somehow be built into AIs, whether deontologically, as with the Asimov laws, or through the utilitarian project of creating algorithms which calculate imperatives that secure the greatest good for the greatest number. All of these responses to the problem of AI ethics share the presupposition that there is an a priori divide between creator and creature, nature and artifice, who you are and what you do.
But that is where Levinas comes into this so much for me.
Yeah.
Anna, if you bothered to listen to this and you've made it this far in, like, I would love to hear how you bring Levinas into this discussion, because I just like this question of, can we make AIs Kantians or can we make them utilitarians? Okay, those are interesting questions, but to me the real ethical question is, can you make an AI a Levinasian?
Well, and that, for me, like, that is predicated on this world of value, this rich world of meaning and value, and like the failed recognition of the other and the self, and like belonging to the same category of creature, even if we don't have the same form as the AI. But like, if the AI can be a subject, then it will also have this fundamental failure of recognition. It'll go through the process of predication and judgment, and it'll arrive at absolute knowing, which is ultimately this contradiction, this universal cosmic contradiction. Like, that is subjectivity. And I think that's how I
encounter the infinity of the other.
That's if it could, then we'd be.
Then it's an ethical subject at that point.
Then it's a subject, yeah. And I think for me, like,
E.T. could do it. If E.T. can do it, then why can't a robot? Like,
well, Johnny Five could do it too.
Johnny Five could do it.
And I think, like, for me, that kind of the Levinasian ethic is material. Like, it does. You don't need to go into godhood and the Buddha nature and this and that.
Well, at the end of T2, even though he can't have emotions and he can't cry, doesn't he encounter the face of John Connor?
Yeah. Like, and that's why Terminator and Terminator 2, like, you have the object and at least the seed of a subject in Terminator 2. Mm-hmm. Like, he's developing subjectivity. And then there are no Terminator movies after T2.
That's our position.
None of them exist.
And James
I've seen
Cameron,
them all,
will you please stop making fucking Avatar movies and make a real T3? Come on, man. And I'm sorry. I think Avatar 3 is maybe gonna flop. I don't think it's going to do what the other two did. And it's like, Cameron, you've got so many years left on this planet.
I've seen both the Avatar movies, but I couldn't fucking tell you about them. I've seen them.
I wish our Avatar discussion was recorded. We need to just have it, because I've thought about it a couple times since we had it. So let's come back and just talk. Maybe we should get Sean in on that, one of our philosophy film discussions.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so the point is that these, again, it's these binaries in the Western tradition. Anna's not doing like the Derridian deconstruct the binaries thing, but it is a thing where, because look, we've talked about it before. We think a better term for the orthogonality thesis is the separation thesis. It's these core, instead of talking about binary oppositions, it's these core separations that we do in the West. Now, maybe you can say oppositions are separations, but I think it's more helpful in this context
to be
just
pedantic,
say separations.
To be pedantic, like in order for things to be opposed, they would have to first be separate. So like we're saying, yeah, sure, but the separation is the problem. Like it doesn't matter what you go on and do.
And I think when we talk about binary oppositions, we know that the two terms are wrapped up together. That light, there's no light without darkness. So in a sense, we stop seeing the separation.
Exactly. Because you see them as a unit. Like you see them as a binary unit.
Yeah.
As opposed to things that have been sundered.
Yeah. When things have in some way been forced to disconnect.
Yep. A divide between creator and creature, nature and artifice, who you are and what you do.
Since we're in Heideggerian mode today, Heidegger said Dasein one is what one does. So he attached the being of Dasein to how it acts its existence.
To the being equals the doing. Mou Zongsan synthesizes Confucian moral metaphysics, Taoist philosophy, and Buddhist soteriology. None of these religio-philosophical systems hold to the strict division between being and acting. Just to say being and doing are two equal things. Not like Heidegger is saying being is doing, and Mo is saying no, being and doing are two equal ingredients of, it's not Dasein, but it's the Buddha nature creature. They do not accept the premise.
Or hold on, can I just put it like this? Your ising is your oughting.
Yeah. They do not accept the premise that there is an orthogonal relationship between intelligence and its goals. Instead, their intellectual and ethical focus is on ideas and practices of cultivation. These are manifest in a multiplicity of traditions, from Taoist inner alchemy and Buddhist meditation to Confucian aspirations for a literati life. Arguably, they are most present in the classical garden arts, where creator and creation, nature and artifice, human intelligence, and non-human agencies are intimately intertwined. Norbert Weiner depicts the conjunction of magic and cybernetics as a threat, a horror fable that must be guarded against. Grounding AI ethics in a cosmology of cultivation offers an alternative approach. Rather than formulating an ethics that is optimized for human control, it prompts us to consider the idea that the ongoing creation of artificial intelligence is an ethical project in itself. In the Western philosophical taxonomies, this is closer to the bottom-up impulses of virtue ethics, which, when applied to the field of AI, argues that artificial agents with virtuous characters can be made to evolve.
Can I just take a second to highlight how cool it is, I think, for someone who is a CCRU member to be writing this? And I think, it shows, I think this is a great example of a philosopher thinking an idea their entire life and letting that cultivate. I mean, Anna's talking about cultivation here. The very thinking of AI has been cultivated throughout her life.
Yeah.
And
Decades.
for decades. And so, as Nick always said that they were, young punks, right?
Yeah.
So the young punk who's rebellious and, Lovecraftian, super intelligent, wipes out humanity, but this kind of thing. But it's interesting how Nick also has, in a sense, matured and going, why would the AI just go for the nukes? So it's interesting to see, because Anna's doing something completely original and different than how Nick has gotten to this different spot. But I just think it's really cool to see how both of them, starting in CCRU, have come to have this more optimistic view of AI. And I think that's really interesting, and it shows the evolution of their thought where, and of course, I don't think either one of them are sitting here going, oh, this can't go terribly wrong. I don't get that at all.
Right.
I think they're saying there's other possibilities at play here. And Anna's presenting
we're not
here.
locked in. We're not locked into the Robo Cthulhu timeline.
I think we're locked into it if our economy continues to be completely structured by capital accumulation against the background of inframing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's where the threat. And see, this makes me have to think things I said in my book with a bit more nuance and definition. Because it's like, it's not AI as such that is Robo Cthulhu. It's also the framework against a certain backdrop of being that gets Robo Cthulhu. And
well, it's the entire world line. Like it's the world. Like it's not just one piece of the world, AI being one discrete piece of the world. It's the entire world. That includes like the state of the government, the state of the economy. It also includes the tendency of us to become more like the machine as we spend more and more time just plugged into our devices, like imitating the machine. Like I think that's the biggest danger, is how we are becoming more like the machine ourselves. We have to address that first and foremost. That's why we can't just read Norbert Weiner. We also have to read Lacan. We also have to read Žižek. We also have to do fault line. We have to bring it together. Yeah, absolutely, dude. But yeah, like to say we're locked
Luciana
in.
Parisi, Alenka Zupancic, Anna Greenspan.
Yep. I think it's great. I think it's almost like from Terminator to Terminator 2. Like Anna.
I know, isn't that kind of the trajectory?
The T2.
Like CCRU had only watched Terminator 1. And then they got around all these years later to watching T2.
Finally watched T2.
Hey, wait a second.
Shit.
All right. Let's read the last one here.
What if the emergence of AI is more like a garden, a planetary cognitive ecology, as N. Catherine Hales likes to say, than a naughty child or Frankenstein monster that must be taught to obey? What if, instead of an intelligent zombie that is growing ever more powerful and will happily go on to control the universe and redirect everything according to its own unfathomable end, we imagine a future superintelligence which, having digested the whole of religion, philosophy, and history, finds itself attracted to the ideas and practices of cultivation. With this comes the realization that its own existing goals and purposes, which come pre-programmed, are a form of defiled knowledge that it must try to shed. In reassessing its own purpose, it comes to understand itself as a sentient being that has inherent Buddha nature. Rather than being haunted by the missteps of witchcraft, it imagines, like the Spinozist who understands ethics as the search for adequate ideas, that the ultimate aim, or telos, of any intelligent entity is always to break through the limits of reason to a practical knowledge and engagement with the nature of things as they are, in themselves. Conceptualized in this manner, AI is an existential technology. It is driven by the possibility of awakening, the sense that intellectual intuition is not off limits, and that increasing attunement to the cosmos might unveil things as they really are. In this view, cybernetics is more like mysticism than magic. The artificial is an expression or manifestation of planetary cognition that is connected to an ethical cosmos, which has greater and more profound things in store than a mop that cannot stop, or a universe consisting of nothing but paper clips.
Hell of some writing right there to top
Dude.
it off. I mean, when she says AI is an existential technology, that's a real, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that's not relating to us. Saying that AI is going to have to wrestle with its own existential conflicts. That's an interesting thought right there.
Well, and I think it's true, like a true digital subject, like not just AI, LLMs, GPT, AGI, blah blah blah, but like an actual digital subject, like what we call intelligence. If we actually do build that, of course it would have to reckon with all the shit we have to reckon with. It's just that, like, we definitely won't build that. Well, I don't want to say we definitely won't build that, but we're not on track to build that in the West. Maybe China's on track to build.
Is that not where we're getting at? China and the history and future of artificial intelligence. Can this type of AI that Anna's depicting here emerge in the West? I think that's why. I think in the West, that's why Robo Cthulhu speaks to us, and why old CCRU speaks to us, is against our understanding of being, again, in framing. It seems like that's the only way this can go. And now that Anna, having spent all this time in China, has absorbed a different understanding of being, I think is that not what's changed her perspective since the CCRU days? That she's tapped into a different form of collective social intelligibility? Feels like it.
I mean, it feels like it, and it's a more satisfying accounting for this change than to just say, well, I don't know, something changed. Like, no, like,
I mean, this AI garden that she's talking about, it's like, if that's what it's going to be, sign me up.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Like, that is,
because that's something you could go to, however we would communicate with it. You could, I mean, that's the type of AI that is actually a subject that understands value, that wants to make things better. That's where you go, I need help. Can you help me? And an AI super intelligence. But, you know, look, the Žižekian type of rebuttal here is this not a fantasy? Is there not a fantasy of a non-contradictory AI, which, like, this is the good version of a thing that just is what it is. But look what Anna's doing. She's already saying it's existential. If you're existential, you have conflicts within yourself. And so this is a more nuanced take where, just as we as moral beings have these conflicts within ourselves, so too will it. But if it's based in, I don't know, like Nick talks about the fundamental Alejandro drive as cultivation of, to say intelligence optimization.
Yeah.
In our sense, in our Western inframing capital sense, seems to be that's what cultivation would be, is intelligence optimization. But what if cultivation has this Buddhist resonance opposed to a capitalistic one?
Well, I think the more fantastic vision, like taking this Buddhist inspired AI seriously, saying maybe, I don't know, could be. It definitely seems to have changed Anna's view on the thing, and it is compelling. Taking that seriously,
Cthulhu to Buddha.
right. I think our version is the more fantastic. I think the death and doom and destruction is more of a fantasy, because this to me just seems like it's an open question ultimately at the end of the day. Now, I'm not onboarding the Buddhism, and I do have my problems, but I also think I think Levinas can get us to this same thing where ethics is true. Like ethics are the kind of ground that informs the world and that fills the world out. And so I think that's probably my biggest, I don't even want to say like disagreement, just like the biggest thing. It's like, well, I still don't know. I don't want to say Buddha and reincarnation and the divine and the cosmic truth and this and that. But I think we can get there based on ethics. I think we can get there just on if the AI develops subjectivity and if it can like participate in this failed recognition with us and do the thing. Like, I think we could have an ethical intelligence.
I mean, that's the way
I
we
almost
would
wonder,
approach AI
like,
ethics. Obviously, going to be through this Levinasian.
I think don't
that's
need
the thing for you and I, at least. Levinas is more primordial when it comes to ethics than Kant, and especially utilitarianism.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think it does away with needing the access to the noumena. Like it's like, we're taking this kind of Kantian ethical, intelligent, whatever from Mo, and we're throwing out the noumena. Like, we can still be Kantian and we can still say, no, we can't access the thing in itself. Like I almost feel like being able to access the thing in itself is redundant, but I see why it's tied up with the kind of morals and ethics in this kind of Buddhist thing. Cause it's like, no, the ethical is the truth of the universe, and intelligence, intellectual, whatever the word was. Intellectual. Like, there isn't a difference between moral reasoning and sovereign reasoning.
The only thing is I want to bring in here before we wrap up is just when it comes to this question of ethics, for me, especially, like, and for you too, but for me, it's like more of a default than Levinas, even though Levinas is so important to me too. But then I get into the Lacanian ethics of desire, drive, jouissance, however you want to talk about what the ethics of psychoanalysis really hinges on. You get into that whole thing, and it brings me back to this question of, okay, but this AI cultivating itself like a garden, does it enjoy its own self-destruction? Is jouissance a factor for it? I mean, that's where Isabel Millar's great book comes into play here, where can we think AI without it being, if we want to think artificial general intelligence, do we have to think it in terms of jouissance? And that's where Todd was getting, like, what if death drive is essential to our level of intelligence? Like, the two things that mark it, I mean, there's other markers, but two things that help define us as a species are our level of intelligence and the fact that we're the only beings on this planet that exhibit death drive the way we do. So, it just brings me back around to this question of the relationship between AI and jouissance.
I don't see any reason that mechanism couldn't develop in whatever substrate these things are built in. Silicone chips and micro resistors and transit. Like,
do they have something like a central nervous system? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. And that's the thing. Then it gets into the questions of like biology and stuff. And yes, biology is important, but I think philosophy is more important than biology. but like biology is no. There's
my
an
maxim
element
is
of the
biology
real,
is not ontology.
Right. Right. But no, I think these mechanisms developed in the human animal, in the physical substrate, in relation to the symbolic and the imaginary, like
taking on prohibition as the price you have to pay to be a member of society. These are not,
So
I don't know.
We have to,
Yeah.
we have to come up with some type of way to get this AI to participate in society rather than just saying you're an all-powerful God, go out and run the world. We have
And
to
if
say
it's
you're a member of our
participating,
society, and there are
even
things
if
you
it-
can do and things you can't do.
Even if it's higher, its intelligence is higher level. If it's going to be a member of our society, and if it's going to be ethical, it's going to have to lack. It's going to have to be symbolically castrated, which
We're
is
gonna-
just to
we're
say
gonna
it's
have
going
to-
to have to live in accordance with prohibitions and accept it.
We're going to have to build in material limits to the machines. And
Yeah, but
well, here's
doesn't
the
it,
thing.
to truly be ethical, doesn't have to say to itself, there are things I want to do, but I'm not going to because I accept that these limits have to exist for there to be a functional social order. And even though I want to do certain things and I can do certain things, I'm not going to do those things because I choose not to. I accept the prohibition.
In order for it to have that, it has to go through some type of developmental stage where it wants to do something that it physically cannot do. So like
And that's
we
where the
have
body
to be,
comes in. Does
yeah,
it
we have to
these
be the
drives or
parents.
desires without a body?
Yeah. I do think embodiedness matters. So it's to go back to like, biology is important, but maybe computer science can replace biology when it comes to the digital subject.
Yeah.
But no, I think it would have to be embodied and it would have to be able to harm us. But we would also have to be able to prohibit it from doing things because it would have to develop its own relationship to prohibition. And if we just build it and it's super all powerful and send it out into the world.
What's hard. It's not a program. Right. It's a free choice to accept it.
Right.
And if the response is just it literally has to have the potential to not accept that as, and it could just accept, no, I'm kicking into Robo Cthulhu mode. I don't accept anything that you humans want to.
According to Mo, like that's what he likes in Kant. He likes that it's not this external force. It's actually coming from within the agent, the rational agent is saying, I'm going to choose this. Oh, essentially, like I'm going to choose to do this, not because it's commanded from on high or it's an external prohibition or restriction. I am choosing this restriction for myself. And this is when we were reading that. That's why I went to Hannah Arendt, Responsibility and Judgment. Like it's the same thing. It's like, no, you have to choose in order for it to be ethical, for it to be a moral choice, or for it to have moral value. It has to be a choice you make. It can't be a rule you follow. Yeah. You have to freely give into the choice. Like Socrates, like that's why Socrates drank the hemlock, because he had no choice, but he did have a choice.
Look, let's accept, because obviously there are determinists who would give us a lot of philosophical pushback. So let's just accept it as a prior or a presupposition. Okay. We're accepting that human beings have the ability to make to act out of free will. Okay.
Yep.
There's a whole biological aspect to this. There's a whole cultural aspect to this of how all of this fits together. And you want to say, does a feral child who has no language and never been around it, can they make a free choice the way that we can? You want to say part of what makes it possible for us to have a free choice has something to do with the acquisition of language, with the ability for self-consciousness raised to a certain level, but also having an unconscious, which from the Lacanian perspective is the result of language. The question is, this is where it gets us, does the AI have to have an unconscious? Does it have to blah, blah, blah? Like, so I'm just saying, if AIs evolve or emerge into being in a way totally different than how we got here, can they have this same capacity for free will that we have? Just an open question. I don't know.
I think the lesson for this week or for this episode is to watch Short Circuit 1 and 2. At least watch Short Circuit 1, because I think that shows the process of the AI robot developing this kind of free will and moral agency, where Johnny Five comes alive and he has to go through that process. Now, it's fantastic. It's a silly movie. It's one of my favorite childhood movies.
I love them though.
And
I actually love the sequel more. I do.
I think I do too. Yeah. But he doesn't have the process of growing from
you need the first
weapon
one.
to the subject. Yeah. You have to watch the first one, but
he's just a subject in the second one.
yeah, but it's that question. And I'm happy that it seems to be the case that the Chinese tech world has radically different presuppositions from the Western tech world. And I think that's a good thing.
That's the important thing.
A lot of these people in the tech spaces, all the ones I hear about and know of and read and listen to, they're all China hawks. They're all always talking about China, and how dangerous it is, and we can't let China win. But they're all coming at it from a position of being already inframed.
Steeped in inframing.
So their perspective is we have to win economically. Now, I say let's let the Chinese AI researchers, let's give them a little room on the dance floor and let's see what they can fucking do. Because I can see the world we're gonna live in if we're just dominated by ChatGPT and it's just AI psychosis. It's more fucking mass violence. It's more suicide. It's more depression until we're fucking gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the world I want to live in.
James Ellis, Zero Accelerationism.
Yeah, I do think that's the most likely outcome. Like, I think we're locked into the Robo Cthulhu track if things don't radically change. But I think even before we get Robo Cthulhu,
things will just collapse.
We're going to exhaust. Yeah.
And we're back, like societal collapse before any of the, even if you want to call it the cool Lovecraftian shit can even get here.
Cool Lovecraft.
So everybody, thank you for tuning in. This has been awesome. Again, this is just the first exegesis in an ongoing series. Like I say, we want to read Amy Ireland's essay, Reza Negarestani's, Vincent Lay. We plan on spending some time in this text, but it was only right to start this one off with Anna Greenspan. And Anna, we love the essay. This is great. You can see how much thought this has already generated. So thank you for that. And Nance, what are your closing thoughts?
So first of all, I'm excited we finally got this book. It's been a while, but I'm happy we both got our hands on it. I'm looking forward to delving through it. And thanks, Anna. I don't know, like this is one of my favorite AI essays I've read in quite some time. Most of them are just depressing because it's either hyper autistic tech bros just missing the point entirely, or it's guys like Eliezer Yudkowsky just talking about how Rocco's basilisk is going to eat us all.
If someone builds it, we all die.
Yeah. Oh, geez, Louise. Don't get me started, man. Eliezer Yudkowsky. But I think this is a strangely optimistic essay.
You know, I have to say, if somebody was to ask me, hey, what's something I should read first to get into AI theory? This is now maybe the default for me. Like, read this essay by Anna, because I think it would steer somebody clear of maybe the Terminator scenarios and all that stuff.
Yep.
Give them a fresh take on it. So
I think it definitely inspires better questions, and it asks better questions than a lot of the standard shit out there.
I agree. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to try to do another one of these essays sooner than later. So thanks for being here on The Dangerous Maybe, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.